everybody. Sorry, as I'm like swatting at a giant fly that's buzzing around here in the studio tonight. I'm sorry about that.
Special guest.
Seriously. Hello, everybody. It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. We are back. It's 2 nights in a row as we get together for part 2 of Ahsoka. If you were here for part 1 last night, thanks for hanging out last night. I think we had a really good show last night. We had lots of great feedback, lots of great comments last night. Hopefully we'll have another great show tonight.
Excellent. Can't see why not.
No, I can't either. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right to it here. I want to just put this up and flip this over here. I want to ask you guys, as I typically do, Toil and Trouble, episode 2. What did we think of Toil and Trouble?
Best episode ever.
And so starts the trend.
Yeah, I mean, it really was better than the first one. But not that, I mean, they were both great. It's so far, it's so good. I can scarcely believe it. I hope the other shoe doesn't drop. It's that good that I'm worried.
I have to agree with you. The double shot, the double episode drop, serving as like a quasi prologue, kind of like what we got with Andor, really did sort of set the tone. Let's get this stuff out of the way, so by the time we get to episode 3, we can get on with the task at hand, which is heading off into
rebellion territory.
Yeah, into this other galaxy where we can either find Ezra and bring him home, and or stop Thrawn.
Yeah,
right on. I got ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Got a little too far ahead of myself. I forgot to rattle the cage here, and
do that.
Well, as we like to, let's try it again. Another round of
bad Star Wars jokes.
Nice. Guys, did you hear about the sale that's going on over at the Darth Mall?
I did not.
No.
Yeah, everything's half off.
Nice. That leans right into what we were talking about yesterday. Perfect. Well,
isn't it ever?
I don't know if you can lean.
The funny thing is, I had the joke. It's the first thing I do. I write in sequence. So the first thing I do is I know we're going to do a joke. So I always write the joke first. Not having the conversation that we had last night. That is the joke. Sincerely, that is the joke that I picked days ago.
Yeah. That's awesome, actually.
I want to talk a little bit about the title of this second episode, Toil and Trouble.
Double bubble.
You guys ready to get your Shakespeare on?
A little bit.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Well, it's a line from Macbeth. Toil, double, toil and trouble.
Cauldron, or was it fire burn and cauldron bubble?
And cauldron bubble, right.
So witchcrafty. The
line is repeated several times during the course of the spell as the witches are casting it. Now, in the play, in Macbeth starts as a hero of the people, but subconsciously he's got this idea that he is fit to be king. Now,
so he's Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He just can't wait to be king.
Nice. Well, the witches and their spell are actually meant to raise Macbeth's desire to the surface so that he might actually be tempted to try and become a king. But the witch's actual intent is, with their spell, is to create a social disruption, thereby destroying Macbeth. Now, which they do, they are successful in doing that. And Macbeth goes on to become a tyrant who is essentially hell-bent on killing anyone who opposes him, and thereby destroying the man that he once was, as was intended by the witches.
So you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Exactly. Now, I included some imagery here. I've included, not only is our title an obvious nod to the fact that Morgan Elsbeth is a Night Sister or one of the witches of Dathomir, I feel like there's some parallels here to what's going on in Macbeth.
Well, there's definitely some witchcraft parallels, like the 3x3.
Well, the 3 statues from episode 1, the 3 fates of Greek mythology, the 3 witches in Macbeth.
The 3 points which unlock the map.
Right. So if Morgan Elsbeth is meant to be synonymous or analogous with the witches. Is there a line or an avenue that makes Thrawn analogous to Macbeth?
What kind of thread are you spinning?
If that is analogous, will Thrawn be his own undoing, just like Macbeth?
Well, he's already been so, and this is the thing with the deeper lore. He's already been a hero of the people.
His own people.
Well, and even a hero of the Empire.
Oh, that's true. That is
Right?
true. Yes,
Like,
yes.
that's
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
That's right.
And now that the Emperor's gone, and the Shadow Council is willing to put me in, coach.
That's right. They all think that with Thrawn's leadership at the helm, that they will have a return to power.
It's got to go to your head too, like,
Yeah.
And who knows what Thrawn we're getting? I see a lot of social media harping upon, like, I hope he's exactly the way he was, and like he's a different not human. He's a different Chiss.
That's right. He's not the same guy
cat.
from the original Timothy Zahn novels. He's far more. I mean, he's just as nuanced, but there are some differences.
Sure, and 20 like some odd years have passed. Like, well,
That's
10.
right.
Sorry, 10 years have passed. Like, spent in another galaxy, maybe part-time captive of the Purgles. There's, I could forgive any nuance because he's a different character. A lot of time has passed.
Absolutely.
Like, technically, his whole armada was humbled by this lowly little Jedi and a bunch of Purgles.
That's right. The lowly little Jedi who in the second last episode is like, right, I know what I have to do, and then goes and does it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because dipping this in Macbeth, because the sequel the prequel trilogy was basically like Anakin is basically Othello. It's right. It's there's a lot of analogies that direction too. So I think what Dave Filoni was doing a lot of was going, so let's look at the mythology that George was basing things on, and let's try to find new ground.
Sure. We're trying to emulate a style.
Yeah. It's that storytelling language. Like, he used this Greek myth, I'm going to use this Norse myth. And
we saw that in episode 1, and we're going to see more of that tonight in episode 2 with the Triquetra and the threads of fate. These are all things that sort of feature prominently in Celtic and Norse mythology. Yeah. So you guys ready to get into the episode?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. It's part 2. It's called Toil and Trouble. This one originally aired on Tuesday, August the 22nd. It is written by Dave Filoni, and it is directed by Steph Green. Now, Steph Green, you may remember, she directed our second episode of the Book of Boba Fett. That one was Tribes of Tatooine. Now, this one has an advertised runtime of 44 minutes, but it is an actual 36 minutes and 48 seconds without titles or credits. And our episode synopsis reads, Ahsoka and General Harrison Dula travel to New Republic shipyards and make an unexpected discovery. All right, our episode opens with a stark white background that fades in to reveal Ahsoka Tano standing in front of the window of Sabine's hospital room, looking out over Lothal City. The ghostly voice of Sabine echoes, "You really think Ezra's still out there?" Followed by a similar ghostly Ezra Bridger saying, "I'm counting on you to see this through." Laying in her bed, an unconscious Sabine sighs. Her rest is fitful, and Ahsoka turns to look at her. As Sabine twitches in the bed, the ghostly voice of Ahsoka says, "This isn't just about finding Ezra. It's about preventing another war." And we can hear the sounds of lightsabers clashing as the voice of Shin Hati says, "We've been looking for this." Sabine answers, "That's too bad." And we can hear Sabine grunt as she relives the lightsaber being thrust through her abdomen. Ahsoka walks over to the bed and calls Sabine as she gently places a hand on her to try and wake her. Jostled from her nightmare, Sabine clutches her abdomen as she looks around the room. A 21B medical droid works at a nearby table while Huyang stands watching her. Sabine tries to get up as she blurts out that the droids took the map, but Ahsoka stops her, telling her to relax. Sabine tells Ahsoka that she doesn't understand because she managed to open it. Ahsoka flashes a look at Huyang before Sabine continues. She says there were 2 galaxies and a pathway between them. Ahsoka asks where the pathway began in their galaxy, but Sabine says that the map was taken before she could decipher it. And to make matters worse, the droids destroyed the record she kept. Ahsoka asks how many droids were there, and Sabine says there were 2, noting that she was able to take out one of them. A very concerned Ahsoka turns to leave the room. Sabine tries to sit up as she calls out to her, but Ahsoka pats her on the foot as she tells her, get some rest. But Sabine insists that she waits, telling Ahsoka that Ahsoka needs her help. Now, coldly, Ahsoka glares back at the wounded Mandalorian and says, no, you've done enough, and promptly walks out of the room.
Shots fired.
Yeah, very much so. We get a nice audio cue in this sequence that lets us know, if we didn't already know by the presence of the 2-1B medical droid, we get an audio cue with the same sound effect that we got in Empire Strikes Back when Luke was on the medical ship getting his hand replaced.
Yeah.
Which also just happens to be the same the same sound in the Lars family kitchen as Beru was cooking. More interesting is the notion of this interaction between Ahsoka and Sabine. Ahsoka standing at the window, vicariously sort of experiencing what Sabine is presumably dreaming. Clearly, there's some connection between these two through the Force. I feel like this might be related to the sense echo ability, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go forward, but it's a little different. All right.
This was a less intrusive version of what she used on Morgan.
No, I think this is more related to that. You know, when Yoda, Luke has the vision about, seeing his friends in danger, and Yoda says, help them you could, but you're trying. It's that whole connection. Like there's these having emotional ties to people that you really care about makes your connection to them through the Force that much stronger.
Like when she's communing with Grogu.
Yeah,
she
very much so.
Like we can feel each other's thoughts.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Elsewhere, Baylan and Shin fly their shuttle towards a seaside cliff. The plateau is covered in a dense forest of red-leaved trees, but in a clearing near the edge stands an array of stones forming a circular henge-like structure. Passing over the henge, they land nearby and they walk into it. The structure is very old, as evidenced by nature, which is slowly taking back the henge in the form of grass and weeds that have grown through the stone floor. Having weathered the seaside for an eternity, all of the stone spires are smooth and rounded, yet the deep carved lines on the rocky floor are still sharp and well-defined. Baylan turns the golden orb over in his hands, staring at it as he and his apprentice approach a pedestal at the center. Placing the orb on the pedestal, the orb begins to rotate before locking itself in position. Baylan orders Shin to contact Morgan and tell her that he believes they have located what he calls the reflex point here on the planet Cetos. As Shin walks back to the shuttle, Baylan follows one of the spires up with his eyes as the almost imperceptible form of a Purgle flies through the clouds overhead. And we get the audio cue of the whale song as he's looking up. The woo.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that reflex point was a Robotech nod, and if it was more than a nod, could it carry the weight that the reflex point carries?
Reflex point in Robotech is the crash site of the main battle fortress. It's sort of it's where everybody is fixated on.
It's
both
the beginning of that story. And
it's really interesting. So I wonder what if they meant, because I tried to look this up and I could not find a reference for it, but like when you put in reflex point into Google, one of the other hits you'll get is a reflection point. And then there are all kinds of intonations about what a reflection point is. Some of them more apt than not, but nothing that made me go, I really need to dig further on this. So I'm leaving it open what exactly the reflex point is. I mean, for all we know, it's a Duran Duran reference. I don't know. Cetos here. That's a new planet making its first appearance here in Ahsoka. We've never heard of this planet before. And then afterwards, we cut to our title card. It's Ahsoka Part 2, Toil and Trouble. Back on Lothal, a pair of Lothcats perk their heads up from a tall grass as a speeder races toward the old communications tower. Now, cut to the courtyard just outside of the tower, and Ahsoka walks slowly through the scene of Sabine's battle with Shin, observing the remains. Oh, you know what? There is no droid there. Why did I think there was a droid there? It's tall grass. Looking at the tall grass. Gesturing with her hand, she reaches out with the Force to sense the echo of the battle between Shin and Sabine. We hear the sound of a lightsaber igniting, followed by the ghostly voice of Shin, who says, "We've been looking for this." Then Sabine, "That's too bad." That's for the second time, by the way. And finally, the clashing of lightsabers. Ahsoka turns in place before walking over to Sabine's speeder bike, now parked at the base of the tower. A helmet sits on the seat, and both of them are sporting a custom paint job in shades of red, yellow, and purple. Then looking up at the tower, Ahsoka takes in its full height. Let's get into it right now. Sense Echo. This is something that we've seen before. Essentially, this is the Star Wars take on the psychic phenomena known as psychometry or object reading. Except in this case, with the Force effect, it applies not only to objects, but also areas, geographical areas. This is something that we see Cal Kestis do in both Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor.
Yep.
Now, the first appearance of psychometry in Star Wars is the 1994 Legends novel, The Courtship of Princess Leia. In that book,
favorite.
Luke. That's come up how many times over the last few review series? Yeah. In The Courtship of Princess Leia, Luke actually tracks Han Solo using Han's emotional scent, like a bloodhound, to the casino on Dathomir. On Dathomir, a planet that Han Solo just happened to win while gambling.
Right. We're going to take the name and use it and forget all that other stuff.
That's right. And the other cool thing is that the Kifar Jedi Master, Quinlan Voss, he's not human. He's a Kifar, near human species, was also very skilled in psychometry. Only in his case, I think it was more of a species thing that was just
natural,
amped up by his proficiency with the Force.
His was pretty object specific as well.
Yeah, like it was
touch an item, get its history. Whereas like half of Cal Kestis and Ahsoka, apparently their ability is to like step into a situation and literally have the moment from the past reenacted for them.
Yeah, almost like having an instant replay.
Yeah. Well, I found it kind of neat when she does take a couple steps like in the battle.
Oh yeah, like she's kind of
the same as Prince Humperdinck did when he came.
Oh yeah. He's tracking
battle between
when he picks up the
Carrie Elwes and
iocane powder.
Before that though, when he's like literally doing the step,
exactly,
reliving this duel between him and
you're a mean man with a map, Flintstone.
In you go.
All right, what sets the sense echo Force ability apart from traditional psychometry is that the wielder need not physically touch the object that they are reading.
Right.
And according to the Wikipedia, so big grain of salt here because anybody can update the Wikipedia. Yeah. However, the canon entry for Sense Echo says that it is a ability that is unique among Force users in that it is a skill that cannot be cultivated through training. You must be born with it. Although the ability may not manifest itself for years, and when it does manifest, it does require practice to learn how to control and perfect it. Although I suspect that now that Ahsoka is doing it, that is going to be a retcon.
Yeah. Or isn't that what Rey ran into?
Yeah, Rey also did it.
Just getting close to the saber.
That's right. So, I mean, this I feel is going to be just added to the suite of all Jedi powers. Facebook user says her species has that ability as a Togruta. I know they have some extra sensory stuff going on. It's hard to say what that is because it's been Legends to canon to whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
There's an evolutionary trait amongst her species because they are a predator species on their own world.
That's
At least
right.
they were in Legends anyway.
Until that cat showed up.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
They were also
if a baby can ride it back to camp, it's not all that tough.
they were also depicted with sharp teeth in Legends. So like to tie into that whole, they were a predator species. Okay, so back at the tower, on the platform at the top of the tower, Ahsoka is met by Sabine's pet Lothcat. Now the Tuca meows at her, and Ahsoka crouches down to greet it. The door to the old control room, now converted to living quarters, is still open, and both the Lothcat and Ahsoka look inside. Ahsoka walks inside while the Lothcat hangs back on the platform. Now Ahsoka walks past the smashed remains of Sabine's work on the star map before she spots the hollow puck sitting on a crate. Activating the puck, the hollow image of Ezra Bridger flickers to life, and Ahsoka sighs as she stares at his image. The Lothcat, which has now moved into the doorway, keeps an eye on Ahsoka, but suddenly its ears fold back as it begins to growl and hiss. Sensing the danger, Ahsoka spins around to meet an HK assassin droid as it drops from a concealed position in the rafters. With one fell motion, she toggles her lightsaber on for a fraction of a second, sending the blade through the droid's chest, then reignites the blade and with a reverse grip, cuts the droid's head clean from its shoulders.
That's the maneuver that's considered faux pas, like the turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah, but she does.
She totally does. And maybe it's because it's a droid, or maybe it's because it's that maneuver. And I've seen a few videos on social media about it too. That maneuver is like apparently
not
uncouth.
Honorable.
Yeah,
Not
to
honorable.
both Sith and Jedi. It's because it's such a why there's tons of times we've seen duels where that could have been the difference.
We saw Ben do that in The Rise of Skywalker. I thought it was pretty cool in that instance. All right, so on and off for a fraction of a second, sending the blade to the droid's chest, then reignites the blade, and with a reverse grip, she cuts the droid's head clean from its shoulders. As the body slumps to the floor, Ahsoka remarks, "I was hoping you were still here," while Sabine's Lothcat snarls at the decapitated head lying on the floor. Well, later on, back at Sabine's hospital room, Ahsoka, Huyang, and a life-sized holographic image of General Harrison Dula gather around the Mandalorian warrior's bed. Sabine looks over the severed droid head, remarking that as long as the capacitors weren't shorted out when it was liberated from its body, she should be able to work with it. Ahsoka asks if Sabine is up for the task, and when she says that, just like the droid, she too is quite resilient, Ahsoka gives a sideways look to Hera, who flashes a smile back at her. Sabine removes the droid's cranial cover as she explains that this model has several built-in backup systems. And before she can explain what the significance of those systems are, Huyang interjects that the droid's memory core remains partially active even after termination. Nodding at Huyang, Sabine adds that if you can get the power levels right, you can recover the droid's memory. An elated Huyang adds, "and find out where it came from." As Sabine continues to wire the droid head into a control device, Hera asks her, what happens if you get the power levels wrong?
Boom.
And matter-of-factly, Sabine tells her it'll explode. But she also says that she can pull the plug on it before it gets that far. Now, Huyang suggests that maybe they try this procedure somewhere else, while Hera says, you should just go for it.
Maybe not in a hospital.
Of course, as a holographic projection, there's no imminent danger to her, a fact that Huyang is quick to point out.
I love that line. Because you're a hologram?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
even the way he delivers it, that's so good.
It's great.
That was my first laugh out loud.
Ahsoka says they don't have time to relocate, and they're already falling behind. And she instructs Sabine to go ahead with the procedure. Sabine activates her control device, and the droid's head begins to light up as the data transfer commences. A temperature indicator on the table lights up, displaying a single bar. Huyang points out that the circuit temperature is rising, while Ahsoka asks if Sabine has anything. Sabine works the controls frantically while the decapitated droid head chatters incoherently. Sabine says the droid memory is encrypted and she's going to need a minute. but the temperature indicator has now risen to 5 bars and the droid's head begins to spark. Ahsoka says she's not sure if they have a minute, while Huyang tells Sabine it's overheating and encourages her to turn it off. Excuse me, sorry. Sabine is insistent that she can get it, even though the temperature has now increased to 8 bars. And there is now an audible electronic whine coming from the droid head as if something is winding up. When the indicator hits 10 bars, a very excited Huyang declares that they're out of time, and he pulls the plug from the HK droid's head. Sabine protests, "No, wait!" But it's too late. Sabine stares at the control device with a look of shock on her face. And when Ahsoka leans in asking, "What is it?" Sabine furrows her brow as she tells them the droid came to Lothal from Corellia. Confused, Hera questions, "The New Republic shipyard?" Turning to face Hera's hologram, Ahsoka mentions that Morgan Elsbeth had factories on Corellia. Hera says that her operations should have been dismantled after the rebellion, and a disdainful Ahsoka asks, "Did anybody actually check on that?"
Dun, dun, dun.
Facebook user, Sabine has a great prop. My cousin had that game when I was a kid. It never had batteries. To me, it reminded me, I said this in our private chat, I thought it was like the old Merlin handheld. It's not exact, but it kind of looks like the Merlin with the red. Yeah.
Kind of nice to see that the robot is still obeying the 3 laws, right? Protect human life.
So I actually was looking at Asimov's
3 laws.
3 laws. Now, obviously the HK droid does not.
No.
But Huyang, yes. Absolutely.
Facebook user says,
"Oh, it's upside down." I never put that together. I never for a second put that together that it was upside down.
Nice.
It was a space shooter. Oh, okay. Okay.
Neat.
Cool. Hera, not sure. Sorry, did anybody actually check on that? Hera, not sure what to make of the information, tells Ahsoka, "I'll meet you there." Sabine pipes up with, "Let's get going." But Ahsoka refuses the help, saying that she needs to recover. Sabine protests, "I'm fine." But it's too late because Ahsoka is already out the door. Hera nods at Huyang, who leaves the room so the two women can talk privately. Now, let me just preface this next event about what's about to happen here. I want to put this out for everybody, for our audience and for you guys. I just want you to think the words space mom. This conversation that Hera is about to have with Sabine is so space mom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
user is Lauren.
call her.
Facebook user. It's Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Hi.
She cracked that game. That's awesome.
All right. So Huyang leaves the room. Now, Harris tells Sabine, "You did good." Now, Sabine nods with a twisted up smirk on her face as she looks at her hospital room door and says, "Well, tell that to her." Staring intently at Sabine, Harris says, "I do." But Ahsoka isn't the one that needs to hear it right now. Sabine sighs as she shakes her head. "I haven't seen her in years, and the first thing I do goes sideways." Hera says that both of them are difficult, and she thought that was what made their relationship work. Now, looking up at Hera, Sabine retorts, "Until it didn't." Hera says that despite all of that, she and Ahsoka still need to help each other. Sabine's eyes go wide as she says, "You heard her. She doesn't want my help." But Hera just smiles in the way that only an insightful mother can as she answers, Yes, she does." And she tells Sabine to get some rest because she's going to need it. And Sabine offers a weak smile as she thanks the general. Hera nods as she offers, "Anytime." And then the hologram winks out, leaving Sabine alone in her hospital room. Okay, back at the henge on Cetos, a ship resembling a golden moth has landed, and Morgan Elsbeth, along with 2 guards, exit it. Walking purposefully onto the henge, Morgan demands to know what it is the 2 false Jedi have found. Baylan gestures towards the square pedestal with the golden map sphere still locked in position on top of it. Standing over top of the map, Morgan sneers as Baylan asserts, "This henge wasn't built by Jedi," and he questions who built it. Morgan tells him that it was built by an ancient people from a distant galaxy, and then asks if Balin would like to see it. Him and all the rest of us.
Yeah.
Nodding in affirmative, he and Shin move closer to watch as Morgan waves her hand over the map. A green flame flickers up from under the sphere, and the map levitates up several inches over the pedestal. As Morgan weaves her spell, the lines and glyphs on the map begin to glow before several pinpoints of light begin to form in a loose circle around it. The glow intensifies until what looks like a holographic image of the known galaxy coalesces into being. Morgan flicks her hand, and the hologram's brightness intensifies, while at the same time, golden beams of light streak out along the recessed lines of the stone floor, terminating at the tops of the rocky spires. Balin and Shin watch in awe as a holographic dome rises out of the perimeter of the henge, encircling the three of them. Marks on the dome indicate several constellations as well as Marks on the dome indicate several constellations as well as line markings indicating distance and direction. Waving her hand over the map again, an image of a second galaxy on the dome rotates and slides into the semicircular cutout at the top of the tallest spire. The image of this second galaxy is rimmed with a ring of holographic purgle. Morgan tilts the star map in front of her, and a golden beam, not unlike a thread, streaks out from the known galaxy onto a point in the new one. Staring at the golden point of light, Morgan tells Balin, "That is our destination, where Grand Admiral Thrawn is banished." Balin questions, "The pathway to Peridea." Peridea, that's a new location we've not heard before. That's getting uttered here for the first time.
Yeah. Looks like it's pointing at the western spiral arm, too, if you will.
Sure, absolutely. Morgan says some call it that. And Balin says, well, that's what the children of the Jedi Temple called it, adding that it came from old stories and fairy tales. But Morgan says that those tales are based on truths. And that is almost like the line from Ahsoka in Rebels about there's always truth in some legends. And I just like, oh, yeah. Balin asks Morgan if she's certain, adding that he feels the way forward is clouded. Morgan inhales deeply and she closes her eyes, and we can hear an incomprehensible whispering. With her eyes still shut, Morgan says that Thrawn calls to her across time and space. Not just space, time and space.
So does that mean wherever they jumped, was it instantaneous and it's still that time for him? Or like, has time passed here? Does it pass differently there?
Is it,
like, I feel like the Purgles probably like the Lothwolves, or probably like the Morai, maybe. When they're traveling, it's probably this other way of traveling through hyperspace, I mean, definitely you can go to another galaxy. We talk about the distances between stars on our own, and
absolutely,
speed of light and all that. Who knows if that stuff even counts here? We've transcended that, at least in regular space travel. But
everybody's seen Interstellar.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean,
so if the Purgle's traveling through the world between worlds to get to its destination, it's almost like
possibly
like folding space, like Robotech.
Yeah. Absolutely, it could be. Well, Balin tells her she speaks of dreams, vague and fractured hopes. While opening her eyes, Morgan looks directly at Balin and she tells him that the threads of fate do not lie.
Right on the nose.
The threads of fate do not lie. Balin nods at Morgan, and Morgan closes her hand over the map, and the hologram fades out of existence, and the map sphere descends back down onto the pedestal. Turning to face the two false Jedi, Morgan tells them that the Eye of Sion is on its way to Cetos, and that they are to make sure that everything is ready for its arrival. Balin nods as she tells Morgan that Merrick will complete his task. Morgan replies, "See to it that he does," and leaves the henge. With his head down in thought, Balin begins to walk around the henge, but Shin can't take her gaze away from Morgan. When she finally pulls it away, she asks her master what will happen when they find Grand Admiral Thrawn. Balin says that for some it will be war, while for others it will be a new beginning. Shin asks, what about the two of them? And staring off into the clouded sky, Balin tells her, power such as you've never dreamed. As Morgan's shuttle lifts off, Shin looks at her master skeptically, but it's a fleeting moment as Balin pulls back from whatever power fantasy he was dreaming of, and he instructs her to go to Corellia and assist Merrick with what he calls the final transport. We get a reference here. We get the name of the ship that they're building, the
Right.
Eye of Sion. And it's not Sion in the traditional sense, like Scion, it's Sion.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a reference for Sion in Star Wars,
Right.
the Sith Lord,
Mm-hmm.
which goes all the way back to the days of like Exar Kun.
Sorry.
Mr. Rogers?
That's awesome.
That's and I'll put this shoe on
That's right.
and this shoe on.
I don't know if there's a correlation here. It's again we talked about this last night with episode 1, that the idea of a new galaxy just gives us this opportunity to go off and tell new stories that are not impacted by anything. So is this just like the similarity stops at the name, or will there be a bigger connection? We put so much emphasis in the relationship to this is a Night Sister thing, or this is from another galaxy.
Yeah.
Could be related to the Legends era stuff? Could be something new.
I think it's direct enough and spelled enough alike that it's probably, and again, it could be just like a drop. Just, this, I like the name. We'll make that count.
I agree with you.
It's far enough back, though. We're not talking like High Republic or even 1,000 generations. We're talking
No.
It's Exar Kun era, like the beginning of the Jedi Order, like
Like
the
tens of thousands.
tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like again, the Ricotta Empire, not the cheese.
Yeah. Well, we've got another mythology reference. I want to talk about this for a second. It's been permeating since episode 1, since Master and Apprentice, and it's the threads of fate. Another mythology reference. This one from Greek mythology, specifically a group of 3 elderly women who spin, measure, and cut the thread of life.
There's that 3 again.
The 3 women outside the temple. I mean, are they analogous to the three fates?
Could be.
So here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where I kind of go off the rails, because while it doesn't relate directly to this episode, it does pertain to our main protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
These 3 women collectively are referred to as the Moirai. That's awful close to Morai.
Yeah.
Morai, the Convoral.
Sure.
With these women essentially responsible for spinning the fate, the threads of human destiny. Does that mean that Ahsoka is destiny personified, or that Morai is destiny personified?
Or
I feel like I've been
is she
saying that
Jacob?
for a bit.
Excuse me, sorry.
Like calling her an immortal character, essentially.
Yeah.
Or is she
absolutely.
destined to take a position as one of these 3 fates?
I don't know. There is. I mean, each of the fates, each of the women, they have their own name. Each one does one thing. One, what is it here? One spins it, one measures it, the third one cuts it. So essentially, it's analogous to birth, life, and death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, is what it is.
And we've seen these like in other movies and
Absolutely.
evenly as recently as what? Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Yes.
The Stygian witches are.
Yes, the Stygian witches are another case of that. 3, it's a magic number, and Morganite in Irish. Well, there you go.
That's foreign
There's a
too.
great Vincent Price album, Witchcraft and something back in the 70s, and they do go over that there as well, like the 3 times 3 times 3, right?
That's right.
That's
Just for
curiously, that's the time. 3 times 3 is the number of times Ahsoka. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not an accident.
challenge. Oh no, seriously. Just want to point this one out. In terms of film and TV tropes, the threads of fate are considered a death trope.
I would say so, based on
That doesn't bode well.
What was that
necessarily
one
for-
with Angelina Jolie and Morgan Freeman where they were messing with the threads of fate?
Oh,
Oh, and they did the Rockford maneuver.
Threads
Or-
of Fate 2.
oh my gosh. I don't know. What are we thinking of?
Oh, it's the one where like he's groomed to be an assassin after his father was an assassin. They're in the guild
Oh, wow.
and they start mucking with the threads of fate.
Is that the one where they bend the bullets?
Yes.
I
Oh.
can't remember.
You know the one I'm
name of
talking about.
Yes,
Yes.
I do know the
With
one
the
you're talking
peanut
Based
butter
on a comic.
rats and yes.
Right. This being a death trope, you know, if the three witches, again, if Morgan is analogous to one of these ladies, that does not bode well for her that this is a death trope.
Hmm.
So there you go. I just thought I thought it was cool. I kind of got down a rabbit hole on this whole Morai thing, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Arthurian stuff going on here. A lot of round tables. A lot
There
of
is, yeah.
Morgan as the the bad guy, the Morgaine kind of thing. You know, you can see through that.
Yeah.
And Marok, who's one of the knights of the Round Table.
Yeah. We've got Lauren who says that autocorrect is her nemesis.
Morganite may be wrong. I don't know.
Wanted was the film though.
Wanted. That's it. Yeah.
Wanted.
But even in that, like they delved into like, you know, Round Table and all these knights of it.
Oh, absolutely they did.
Sort of analogous of karma, like you
Yeah.
muck with these things, there's going to be a ripple along the line somewhere.
Sure.
It's just cool mythology, like we talked about at the beginning. It's like Dave's going, I'm going to step laterally from what George was doing and pick something just as cool. And this may have even had seeds back, you know, because the idea of Moray and that, if it's the namesake, was created by George Lucas back in the Clone Wars animated. So.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to go back to Rebels now with that one scene where everybody's like, oh, look, it's Grogu doing the fire thing.
Oh, yeah.
Or any of the other, you know, hieroglyphs kind of universe reference.
Oh, that's a good question now. Yeah, that's a good question.
That's true.
We'll be looking at that microscopically
Retroactively.
next week. All right. Over the planet Corellia, Ahsoka's T6 Jedi shuttle drops out of hyperspace and it moves toward the planet's surface. Passing by a large space station, we can see at least 7 MC-30 frigates docked while another passes underneath with a CR-90 Corvette escort. This region of Corellia's surface is a vast network of waterways and shipbuilding yards. And as Ahsoka heads in for a landing at a massive shipbuilding gantry, we can see the remains of several Imperial Star Destroyers in various states of disassembly. Rotating the T-6's fin-shaped wing for landing, Ahsoka sets down near a familiar-looking sheathipede shuttle. It's the Phantom II, the small support vessel normally found docked with Harrison Dula's VCX-100 freighter, the Ghost.
Getting so close.
Ahsoka joins Hera and the regional supervisor, Min Weaver. Now, Min is accompanied by an RA-7 protocol droid. Although the RA-7 had been produced since the Clone Wars, it gained notoriety as the preferred protocol droid of the Galactic Empire. In fact, the Empire commissioned its own line of RA-7s where they proved to be effective spies. Weaver recounts that when the... Yeah.
Somebody that plays with threads?
Absolutely, yeah. Weaver recounts that when the Empire fell, that all Imperial assets were dissolved and redistributed, including Morgan Elsbeth's. Ahsoka says that they'd appreciate a look at her former operations anyway. Now, Min tries to dissuade them by telling him that he's quite busy. Hera tells the man that, well, she could just as easily make this a more formal inspection. But after darting his eyes back and forth between the two women for a moment, he passes his datapad off to his droid assistant, and he tells them that won't be necessary, and he beckons them to follow him. From the droid socket on the Phantom, the curmudgeonly astromech droid, CP-10P, affectionately known as Chopper, watches the women leave while he shakes his head and chatters to himself. Now, Min Weaver, that's Peter Jacobson. He's a working actor with just under 100 credited roles, starting with the vaunted role of reporter number 1 on the very second episode of NYPD Blue back in 1993. But he is probably most recognized as Dr. Chris Taub in 96 episodes of House MD between 2007 and 2012.
He's in a Marvel movie or show too, wasn't he recently?
I don't know. Do you recognize him, Andy?
I thought I did, but
Feels real.
I'm not sure.
Background guy in Guardians or something.
Possibly. We cut to an overhead shot where Hera, Ahsoka, and Min Weaver ride a repulsor skiff through one of Morgan Elsbeth's former facilities. Weaver explains that Morgan supplied the raw materials used to construct hyperdrive generators for Imperial-class Star Destroyers. He says that now that the Imperial fleet is being dismantled, they're using the hyperdrive cores to power the ships of the New Republic Defense Fleet. Dun, dun, dun. Ahsoka asks if the facility still employs any of Morgan's former staff. And Weaver explains that they do. Well, they had to in order to stay operational. He adds that the Empire or an empire does not become a republic overnight, and he says that you can find ex-Imperials at every level of the New Republic government.
love that line.
Because we didn't see that one coming.
Well, just like the opening sort of paragraph of the original novel written by George Lucas.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Ghost written. But it's literally the Republic corrupted like a tree from within.
That's right,
And
yeah.
Just the same as the New Republic is being corrupted.
Well, and as if on cue, workers in the yard shoot sideways looks at the trio as the skiff whizzes by.
Yeah.
Hera asks Min if he's worried about the employee loyalty, but he's not worried in the least. He says that the average worker doesn't care about galactic politics and they're loyal as long as they get paid. Hera questions Weaver's own loyalty. Then, cocking his head to one side, he tells her that he's a businessman and his loyalty is to his investors, and he'll leave the politics to her. As the speeder moves through the shipyard, Hera suggests to Ahsoka that connecting with Sabine has paid off. But Ahsoka doesn't exactly share that assessment as she replies, until she lost the map. But Hera's optimism won't be unfettered as she replies, at least she unlocked it. But Ahsoka, who clearly has a chip on her shoulder, says that doesn't do them any good if they don't have it. But Hera won't give up. Sabine got them to Corellia, and she's quick to point that out. When Ahsoka asks what it is she's getting at, Hera tells her that she was wondering if Ahsoka would consider taking Sabine back on as her apprentice. With Hera's hand played, Ahsoka nods in understanding, but says that maybe she and Sabine are both past that now. Hera thinks that both Sabine and Ahsoka could use the structure, but Ahsoka says that Sabine isn't ready. Pressing her, Hera asks what makes someone ready. Pensively, Ahsoka says, you just know. And so do they. With an acquiescent nod from Hera, the conversation ends, and the skiff moves off through the yard while more workers watch. And if
I have
that
to say
is
the
not,
dialogue just feels like Rebels.
it really does. And if that's not the bookend of the space mom conversation that we had back in the hospital.
Yeah, talking to one kid by yourself, talking to the other one by yourself.
Right.
Laying the groundwork.
Even if we're not 100% clear yet on the dynamic of what happened between Ahsoka and Sabine, it's because right now, with an episode and a bit, it's almost like they're squabbling siblings. Like they don't really have that master apprentice dynamic. They just seem to be more like
sibling and younger sibling.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't interact in Rebels. Like
right.
They're not, Sabine's wrapped up with Ezra and Ahsoka's wrapped up every time you see her with Ezra and Kanan. Side mission, doing there's no, like, you watch it over and over and over. There's zero interaction between Sabine and Ahsoka. Maybe a passing glance, maybe one or two lines of dialogue, but I don't even think there's that, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And so I think this was maybe part of the plan if the show was going to keep going, but it's almost like I'm just going to take my favorites and just jam them into new, I'm playing with my action figures now. So I'm
Robert Rodriguez this shit.
Right. Like, and literally put a lightsaber in a Mandalorian's hand and let's tell a new story.
I like that, that she's really trying to bring she's trying to bring at least those two back together. I really like that. And again, that kind of lays into what I said, that I make the joke space mom, but really, I mean, let's not forget, Hera really is a mother. we haven't seen Jason yet, but she's a mother. So, I mean, that for me, it comes through in Mary Elizabeth Winstead's performance here that she's really doing a great job at what Hera has always done.
I hope there's something in the series that causes her to have to drop her accent. We get that little Twi'lek French.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be cool. That would be very cool. Yeah, yeah. Lauren says either Obi and Annie or him and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Or either did Obi and Annie or him and Ahsoka.
Yeah, they didn't get along
right,
either.
you're
Like
right, you're
they
absolutely right.
bickered like brother and sister.
Absolutely, they did all the time. All right, so back at Sabine's hospital room, the medical droid removes a Bacta patch from her mostly healed lightsaber wound just as Hu Yang enters. I did not say anything in my notes, but I did say to you guys, what the hell is a hospital without a Bacta tank? But descriptive audio tells us that is a Bacta patch that the droid, the 21B droid, is removing. So
it's only a little injury.
I would imagine, like, before we got to the first scene, that she spent some time in a Bacta tank. But that probably
you're probably right.
With the PG rating, we couldn't show her in her underwear underwater.
Right. Just men.
Yeah. That's right. Men in the 70s.
Yeah, really. All right. Well, he remarks how he heard that, just as Hu Yang enters, and he remarks how he heard that her repairs were nearly complete before noting that she still has her lightsaber. Sabine corrects the ancient droid by telling him that that's Ezra's lightsaber. And while Hu Yang acknowledges the fact that Ezra was, yes, the one to construct it, he in fact is the one to correct Sabine by telling her that, well, he actually passed it on to you, and now you've made your own modifications to it, therefore it's your lightsaber. Rolling her eyes, Sabine murmurs, for all the good it did me. Hu Yang then asks Sabine if she's kept up with her training. When Sabine says, obviously not, Hu Yang pragmatically suggests that maybe it's time to start again. Sabine says, well, she doesn't think that's up to her because Ahsoka doesn't want to train her. Hu Yang asks her to explain. Ahsoka doesn't want to teach. Hu Yang calls Sabine's answer a poor excuse. Turning to face the droid, Sabine fires back that it was Ahsoka that quit on her. But his answer is very droid-like. The past is the past. Move forward. Lauren, another trick, logically speaking. I do like that. Oh, tech. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Sabine
he's so pragmatic. I love that about him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like to a fault. Sabine accepts the ancient droid logic, but she asks if he and Ahsoka could have opened the map by them. Had they been able to open the map by themselves, would they have come here? Oh, so now I'm getting corrected. That was Doug. Okay, so we have multiple Facebook users tonight.
Comment D or L.
Seriously.
It's awesome.
All right. Sorry, I apologize.
We love them both.
She accepts the droid logic and asks that, but if Ahsoka could have opened the map by themselves, would they have come here? Hu Yang calls the question irrelevant, but Sabine insists, no, it really is. Pressing him further, she asks if she was part of the plan at all, asking if Ahsoka was going to tell her about Ezra before questioning if this reunion of sorts was Hera's idea. Hu Yang concedes that Hera thought her insight with the map would be valuable and that Ahsoka agreed with her. Sabine smirks at the droid and then gets up and joins him in front of the window. Sabine insists that Ahsoka didn't want her back, that she wasn't even thinking about her. Then Hu Yang counters that in all fairness, Sabine never really indicated that she even wanted to come back. Sabine remarks that, well, she forgot how annoying Hu Yang could be, and the ancient droid retorts, logical? Standing in front of the window with her arms folded across her chest. She says it doesn't matter because she never had the talent or the abilities like Ezra did. Hu Yang acknowledges that much is true, adding that over the centuries, he's known many Padawan learners, but Sabine's aptitude for the Force falls short of all of them.
That's
ouch.
And so funny at the same time that he would be that blunt.
Yeah, you suck.
It's almost goading her, though. Like, come on, get back in there.
Yeah, really. Turning to face Hu Yang, Sabine tells him that she won't waste any more of Ahsoka's time. But holding up the lightsaber to offer it to Sabine, Hu Yang tells her that the only time being wasted is her own.
Yeah. You better hurry up if you're going to compensate for all that lack of natural talent.
Taking the lightsaber from Hu Yang, Sabine stares down at it pensively. I said last night I was going to throw this up here, and now we've come to the time in our show where it's comparison time.
Good job.
There it is.
Nice.
So this is Ezra Bridger's lightsaber, and the best image I could find is the one on the left. That is the Galaxy's Edge Ezra Bridger legacy lightsaber. So about as close to a prop replica as you're going to get.
Yeah, you got that.
In a 1-to-1 scale. On the right-hand side, we have the actual prop replica of Sabine Wren's lightsaber on display at San Diego Comic-Con earlier this year, and we can see that they are in fact the same hilt. Looks like Sabine has changed the emitter.
Mm-hmm.
That emitter, and I didn't add I should have put a picture in for this, but it's very much Jaro Tapal.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Ahsoka's emitter, like with the split.
Oh, her original sabers.
Yeah, like her
green ones.
Doesn't her current one have a split?
No, they're just
they do. Yeah, they look like katanas. No, so you're right. It is like her original sabers because that split goes all the way down. But it does look a lot like Jaro Tapal when you say that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. By the way, Jaro
stock lightsaber parts, right? Hu Yang would have had them in his back pocket.
Jedi Master Jaro Tapal of the Lasat species, another loose connection to Rebels.
And a second time in this episode, we're getting another jumping off starting point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Morgan's saying here, we're at the starting point.
Yeah.
And now Hu Yang's telling her, okay, you're at a point again, start again.
Yeah, start again. I do like that. Well, back on Corellia, Min Weaver shows Hera and Ahsoka the control room where they keep track of inventory that's created from the dismantled Imperial ships. A pair of red protocol droids on either side of the door work away at computer stations, while 3 seated humans work from consoles just under the windows that span the room. With the trapezoidal windows and the general layout of this control room, it is very reminiscent of the bridge of any capital starship that we've ever seen, mostly Imperial. As Ahsoka and Hera examine the room, Weaver tells them that the profits generated from one Star Destroyer is enough to fund various New Republic reconstruction programs, among other things. When Ahsoka asks what other things, Weaver explains that the board and the primary investors have the first look at all unique hardware, as well as setting the price and the distribution. Translation, evil megacorporation gets first look and plays fast and loose with what and who they sell it to.
And for how much?
Absolutely.
You're going to pay me this much for this thing.
And if nobody comes and asks, then, oh, well, it's okay.
It can go to the other projects.
Absolutely. Ties in very neatly with, you'll find Imperials at every level of government.
Standing right in front of you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, let's just take that line and let's bookend that with, how did they build a secret fleet that nobody knew about?
Well, they just
wrote
it off.
They just wrote it off. Exactly. They literally wrote it off.
We're going to ship this one to other projects.
I know that the final order was said to be under construction for like decades, but like this is exactly how you do that.
Yeah.
You literally just mire it in the bureaucracy and bury it in paperwork. And if nobody asks, we just cook the books a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, looking at the window, Hera notices an exceptionally large hyperdrive core, and it's tethered to a transport hauler. When she questions Weaver about it, he tells her that, well, that's been refurbished from a super Star Destroyer, and it's ready for its new life serving the Republic. He punctuates the story by telling her that they've produced 9 of these new units, not just 1, 9 of them. Oh, that's a great point. Hera's background as a spy comes in handy here. Yeah, absolutely it does.
Know what to look for.
Absolutely. Doesn't hurt that she's a general who can
D.
I'm just gonna tell you to do something. Nothing's off limits to me.
Because he does give off the slime ball.
Oh, he does. He totally does.
Businessman.
He's trying though. He tries.
He's trying.
I'm busy. Well, we can make this formal. Okay, we won't have to do that. Oh, I can. It's classified.
Show them the merchandise.
Not to me. Yeah, exactly. So he punctuates that they've produced 9 of these new units. And the ruse might have actually worked if Hera wasn't a New Republic general that knows that there aren't any ships of that size being built by the New Republic. Heck, it would have worked. And this is the thing. I actually laughed at this, thinking about this. If they'd have come one day earlier or one day later,
Yeah.
there never would have been a problem.
No.
They just happened to be exactly where they needed to be at the time they needed to be there, which
Fate thread.
well done. Yeah.
Force works in mysterious ways.
Yes, it does. Pressing Weaver, she asks, what class of ship is that for? Weaver stutters as he has no idea what to say. So picking up a nearby datapad, he proceeds to check on that information. Well, the datapad chirps, and Weaver tells her that the information is classified. Hera reminds him that she is a New Republic general and nothing is classified to her. Weaver apologizes that without authorization, he can't unseal a document. And with the mom smile, Hera tells him, I'm authorizing it. Weaver chuckles as he mutters, I'm not sure you can. And flashing the space mom grin, Hera refutes him with, wanna bet? You ever had your kid kind of backtalk you?
Yep.
Does that not sound like something a parent would say? Wanna bet?
Yep.
Do you want to roll them dice, Sonny? Weaver looks sheepishly to Ahsoka, who just folds her arms across her chest and stares back unfazed. Summoning one of the red protocol droids, Min hands the pad over to it and asks for help with the appropriate protocol. Ahsoka asks, what other kind of droids do you have here? Which catches the attention of one of the human workers at the back of the room. Weaver tells her that in addition to standard protocol type droids, they also employ CCLs, IW-37s, and HV-7s, among other load lifters. Ahsoka presses him a little more and asks, no HK class? Weaver chuckles as he snorts, assassin droids? I should think not. Hera adds, not even repurposed droids to stay on schedule? Which, by the way,
would make perfect sense
because
considering
we've
Mandalorian.
already seen repurposed battle droids doing exactly that. Weaver apologizes and he repeats that they do not have any. But the protocol droid C1, following its programming to a fault, blurts out that she catalogs inventory on arriving ships and she recently saw an HK class droid when it prevented her from completing her task. Another one of the human workers flashes a sideways glance at the New Republic officials. When Ahsoka asks C1 when that happened, C1 tells them it was just 5 rotations ago. 5 rotations on Corellia. Legends would have us believe that one rotation on Corellia was 25 hours.
Right.
So just 5 days ago?
Yeah.
Weaver chastises the droid. Why didn't you log a report? C1 tells him because the HK droid had a high-level security clearance and she could not object. Ahsoka asks, where is the HK droid now? Then pointing out the window, C1 says, I believe it's leaving on that transport. The very same transport hauler with the SSD hyperdrive tethered to it.
Yep.
Well, I want to talk about droids here for a second. I kind of went through this. I think there's an actual, could be intentional, could be something that we've not seen before. There is no reference for CCL droids. There are, however, because, and I use the context of we are talking about load lifting droids.
Mhm.
There are CLL load lifting droids. And I wonder if this is just a case of,
Different classification. maybe.
or you read the line incorrectly.
But
they used it
I
anyway?
was going to say you read the line wrong.
That's what I think.
The jargon is hard to wrap your head around.
I think that's just, a case of confusing the techno babble, but there we go. The CLL M2 binary load lifter, along with the IW-37, that's the pincer loader, and then the HV-7 loading droid. What's interesting here is that 2 of the 3, the first 2, they made their first appearance back in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
But the third one, that HV-7, that's an interesting droid model. It's a hovering model of load lifting droid that made its first appearance in the Legacy Era campaign guide for the Star Wars role-playing game published by Wizards of the Coast in 2009. That campaign guide is set 100 years after the death of the Emperor at
crazy.
Endor. So that droid is making its appearance here 100 years earlier than it should. Well, or 90 years earlier than it
R2 is
should.
like 100. Like
Yeah.
Well, they'll be here long after we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Hu Yang's probably 10,000 years old. We've
Right,
had that
exactly.
tech for a long time.
And still 75% original parts.
That's right.
All right. C101. That is this character is voiced by is portrayed by two people. We have the voice of C101. That's Shelby Young. We've seen her before. That's our Captain Bragg in the Bad Batch, as well as Lego Princess Leia in just about every Star Wars Lego iteration where she speaks, as well as Princess Leia in the Forces of Destiny shorts. Now, the performance artist here, that's Chris Bartlett. Now, Chris has played C-3PO in several non-Star Wars appearances like Good Morning America and Late Night with David Letterman, as well as Speechless. Now, he's also performed several protocol droids in every live-action Star Wars TV show to date, including both Bounty Hunters 1-Jack and Q90, and he was the blue protocol droid in your episode, Hank.
I would love to see the meeting where we need a guy who's really good at this.
Yeah.
I need somebody. Get me the guy who's exceptional at this.
I didn't have enough space to put all of them in. Like I looked them up, but I mean, he was, that's the traffic control droid from the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He played a bunch of other protocol droids.
That's awesome.
Like he's been in every live action show as a droid.
It's that, or find me the guy that fits in this Anthony Daniels suit.
That's right. That was like life casted to Anthony.
Now, is this red protocol droid the same one C-3PO stole the arm off of?
No, that's an
Or same
homage.
style?
That's an homage to another droid character.
Okay.
Yeah. A droid, a friend of C-3PO's that gets essentially killed. So it's a tribute thing to, I have a red arm. It's a solidarity thing.
Perhaps he didn't recognize me.
As the hauler's engines light up, Hera orders one of the controllers to stop the ship. The woman says it's already been cleared and she can't stop it. Hera orders the woman to stop it. At the same time, one of the twitchy controllers decides to make a statement as he leaps out of his seat. For the Empire! He levels a blaster at Hera's back, but before he can pull the trigger, Ahsoka uses one of her lightsabers to disarm the man and follows it up with a killing blow with the other saber. The rest of the command crew all draw blasters to engage. Hera gets off a shot before one of the attackers can, and Ahsoka dispatches the controller that was unable to stop the transport. Another woman at the far side of the room points her weapon at Ahsoka, but using the Force, she rends it from the woman's hand just as Hera shoots her. With the immediate danger past, Ahsoka tells Hera to get to the Phantom. Min Weaver, who had taken cover behind C-101, pops his head up to take a look around just in time to see Ahsoka shatter the central window of the control center with her lightsabers and leap out.
Looking a lot like Batman there.
Yeah, it's very cool. I quite like that scene.
Awesome.
Command crew number 1, because that's that is the vaunted title that she gets. But hey, she had a speaking line, so
Yeah.
I added it. Command crew number 1, that's the woman who said, I can't stop it. They've already been cleared. That's Kelly Fallon. Now, she's a veteran stunt performer with just over 80 appearances in film and TV, going back as far as 2011. Now, Kelly's longest running gig was on the Peacock original series AP Bio, where she was the series stunt coordinator, as well as a stunt performer for 23 episodes of the series between 2018 and 2021. Now, she has been the stunt double for some notable actresses, such as Noomi Rapace, Kristen Stewart, Catherine Winnick, Kristen Bell, Kristen Wiig, and most recently as Jennifer Aniston's stunt double on the Apple TV Plus original series, The Morning Show.
Wouldn't think there'd be need for stunt doubles on that one.
Well, I guess if you fall down, I don't know.
Slip on this banana.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, dropping dozens of feet to the platform below. By the way, an inhumanly impossible task to survive. But hey, Jedi. Loved it. Superhero landing. Kaboom. Dozens of feet to the platform below. Ahsoka lands in a controlled roll and comes up running at a sprint, I might add. She chases the hyperdrive and the transport and the hyperdrive down the slip, but suddenly skids to a halt. The camera cuts to behind Ahsoka, where we watch as the hauler, along with the hyperdrive, pull away from the shipyard. But more immediately, the black-clad form of Merrick dressed in the trappings of an Imperial Inquisitor, including the double-bladed spinning lightsaber, stand before her, as does another HK assassin droid armed with an electrostaff. At the same time, Hera arrives at the Phantom, where she yells for Chopper to fire up the engines before climbing aboard and chasing after the escaping hauler. Now, we didn't talk about this last night, but we have talked about this before. The Inquisitorius is gone by the time we get to A New Hope.
Long gone. Yeah.
So this is the first case of what we think is an Inquisitor being active after the Imperial era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to
Agreed.
conflict with that.
No.
Well, if he's running with Balin Skull, though, maybe like not quite an Inquisitor, but he liked their style, so that's what he adopted, or whoever has adopted.
So that is entirely possible. Like, you know,
I think your
the
closest
Qui-Gon
analogy
line,
might be the Knights of Ren.
that's that is a possibility as well. We've talked in broad terms. The term survivor gets bandied around. Morgan is a survivor. Ahsoka is a survivor. Balin is a survivor. Whoever Merrick is, was, might be, could also be a survivor. And just like the line from Qui-Gon Jinn about his laser sword, how do you know I didn't kill a Jedi and take it from them?
Right.
How do you know I didn't kill an Inquisitor and take it from them?
Yeah. I mean,
The only real force use we see from this character is throwing the lightsaber and catching it. That's it.
Yeah. And speaking of force use, this would have been a prime time for Ahsoka to just reach out like she did on the downed Venator.
Yeah.
Get back here.
That's right. Come here.
Just hold it long enough for Hera to get up there.
Absolutely. All right. Ahsoka takes up a ready stance as she ignites both of her white lightsabers. Merrick drops his cloak and the HK droid charges forward, swinging its electrostaff. So fluid. So fluid. Ahsoka defends the initial assault from the droid, but then Merrick is right behind it with his crimson blade. The Phantom streaks by overhead, and Hera can see the battle taking place below her on the slip. Ahsoka sweeps the droid's leg. Sweep the leg. Knocking it down, but Merrick is unrelenting as he stays on top of her with an overhead chop. Crossing her blades, Ahsoka staves off the attack before driving him back with a couple of strikes of her own. High above the shipyard's waterways, Hera closes in on the transport hauler. She radios the ship, ordering it to return to port. But the only answer she gets is a barrage of cannon fire. But Hera is no slouch for a pilot, and she dodges the incoming fire. Now, Chopper, on the other hand, begins to freak out as he bangs on the hull and chatters angrily at Hera. She tells him to keep your lid on and begins to close the distance between her and the hauler. Back on the ground, Ahsoka continues to defend herself from both assailants. Moving in concert, both Merrick and the HK droid strike at the same time, tying up both Ahsoka's lightsabers as they try to drive her over the edge of the slip into the empty trench. Ahsoka manages to get away from the edge, and she lands a kick to Merrick's chest, forcing him back. And that's the first vocal "ugh" we get from Merrick. You decide what you think it is.
Maybe.
At the
I did
same
say listen to that grunt.
At the same time, the HK droid that is now poised behind her takes a running swing at the back of Ahsoka's head, but she senses the attack and she ducks underneath it. The droid wheels to face her, but it's too late as Ahsoka drives her Shoto saber through its chest. But it's not the droid that she's focused on. Her eyes are locked squarely on Merrick. Driving the droid backwards and using it like a shield, Ahsoka swings at the Inquisitor, but he manages to deflect the blow. Then Merrick wheels around the droid, and he cuts the droid in half, denying Ahsoka her newfound shield. And as the lower half of the droid slumps to the ground, the two Force wielders slowly square off. This time, Merrick activates the other half of his lightsaber. In the skies over the shipyard, the Phantom continues to take fire from the transport hauler, but Hera stays calm as she weaves her way around the exploding flak. Chopper chatters at Hera to shoot it down, but she tells our favorite murder bot that she can't just shoot it down because it would crash into the port city. Not impressed with Hera's answer, Chopper chatters what might as well be a "what the fuck," and then she tells him to ready a tracking device, adding, "and don't miss this time." Chopper shaking his head and mutters what I presume to be a mockery of, and don't miss this time.
So good.
Down below, Ahsoka and Merrick continue to exchange blows. The grunting from Merrick would suggest that this battle is not without significant effort on his part, which is a stark contrast from Ahsoka, who hasn't even broken a sweat yet. Well, back on the Phantom, Chopper sifts through an assortment of random items in a compartment next to his droid socket. Holding up each component that isn't a tracking device, he inspects it for a moment before chattering "no" and then throwing it into the ether. With both hands on his domed head, he chatters at Hera, "Did you go through my stuff?" Hera replies, "No, I did not go through your stuff." Not convinced, he chatters back something like, "Yes, you did." By now, Hera is getting short with Chopper, and she snaps, "Did you look under the backup battery?" And Chopper, "What? Oh." Sliding the battery compartment open, Chopper spots a small round disc. Holding it up victoriously, he exclaims, "Found it!" Somewhat relieved, Hera tells him, "Great, now hurry up. They're going to make the jump to hyperspace as soon as they clear the atmosphere." On the ground, Ahsoka and Merrick lock blades. Using a force push, Ahsoka shoves the Inquisitor several feet back. Just then, a chime goes off on Merrick's wrist comm, and he throws his lightsaber at Ahsoka, then turns and promptly runs away from her at a full tilt. Ahsoka backflips over the spinning blade, and she gives chase. But suddenly, Balin's shuttle swoops down, and it strafes the slip. Shin stands on the lowered boarding ramp while Merrick leaps onto it. The shuttle begins to pull away from the slip as Ahsoka runs out from a dust cloud. Merrick stretches out his hand, calling his lightsaber back. Sensing the flying weapon, Ahsoka easily leans out of its way and watches as the shuttle closes the ramp and flies off.
Just like Anakin in the season finale. Yeah, he's just dodging.
Yeah.
like cannon
as he's
fire.
just standing on top of the
right.
the tank or the wreckage. What are you guys doing down there?
Yeah, a bit of a contrast to last episode where it was her who had to leap onto the shuttle.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Nice.
As the transport hauler breaks the atmosphere with the Phantom in pursuit, Hera tells Chopper, "Get ready." Watching the glow of the engines, she spots the moment they shift power to make the jump to hyperspace and proceeds to roll the Phantom over top of the larger ship, which gives Chopper a clear line to throw the tracker. It's a little Obi-Wan to Django there. Yeah. Spinning his head like a top, Chopper winds up his throw, and the device finds its mark. With a fist pump from his little arm, he chatters what I presume is something like, "Got it!" And then the hauler jumps away. Hera says, "Good work." And he holds up both his arms over his head in a victory cheer before curling them down into what can only be described as a flex.
I think he says, "I'm the man."
Something like that, yeah.
I'm the droid or I'm the man.
Yeah. Standing at the end of the slip, Ahsoka watches as Shin and Merrick fly up and away from the shipyard. When her wrist comm link goes off, Ahsoka says, "Tell me you have good news." From the other end, Hera tells her that they got a tracker on the escaped ship.
Now, just before we jump there,
Oh, sure.
Do we assume that because Empire folk are running this particular yard, are all the transport haulers like being fit with like full weapon systems?
I kind of wondered about that too. Like, and I know it's
like just in case.
It's a very Star Warsian, it's a very sci-fi thing that, you know, ships. It seems like all ships of pretty much every class have some kind of weaponry, which at first I thought that this hauler was more akin to the haulers we saw in Solo. Which looked like a bunch of scaffolding with basically a cockpit strapped to it.
It's
I
still,
never once
it has
thought
an AT-AT element to it. It
like
kind
of
when you're
boxy.
close up to it. Yeah. But Corellia was never, I mean, they were subjugated, but they I mean, pre-Empire, they were like a corporate sector world.
Yeah.
They just like were a business world, sort of unaffiliated with anything but business.
There's a great I don't know if it's there's a couple of YouTubers I watch and I can't think of who. Somebody I watched recently did a video on exactly that subject. Like, why is every ship armed? Like, is their galaxy that lawless?
'Cause I don't remember in the Bad Batch when that freighter is leaving Dooku's homeworld.
The bulk freighter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
nothing.
don't recall that one having any sort of
Not really, no. No.
defenses. But
Yeah, but again, it's a Star Wars trope, and I don't know if it's unique to Star Wars. Certainly, Star Trek has the same trope.
Man, I guess
Every
it's no
ship
different
has-
than a bank heist movie and dudes leaning out shooting back as they get away.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanted a real world, and I'll use the Star Trek analogy that there's two things that keep you from the cold vacuum of space. One is that's what shields are for, and weapons may have evolved out of like mining implements, and so maybe that's why everything is armed.
It's also probable that that's like pre-existing Corellian tech.
Sure,
Like,
it is
not
yeah.
Imperial tech, but pre-existing Corellian tech.
Yeah, like
And then
Republic era.
And they would be protecting their own interests if they're
That's right, yeah.
capable of transporting hyperdrives across vast distances of space. Then
Yeah.
those pilots need to protect the company's interests.
From
So
all those space pirates.
makes sense to me.
What do you mean, pirate?
Maybe that other dude's not going to come back, Swamp Thing, but
Oh, right.
The False King.
Dorian.
No, he would be gone by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we're concurrent with that season of Mando. You're right. Gorian Shard.
Yeah,
But there is another pirate out there.
somewhere out there.
Need it so bad.
That guy
It's
survived.
So bad.
I just want to point out for those who don't follow the show, like that he is at the Black Spire outpost, so
Right.
that means
Yeah.
that he survived to the sequel era.
Right.
He's out
35
there.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you don't just get added to Galaxy's Edge for no reason.
absolutely not.
Like, is there a Max Rebo at Galaxy's Edge? I don't think so. But there's
Maybe
a
they'll have Max
Hondo.
Rebo days.
Maybe.
They had Mando days.
Yeah,
They
Maybe
just
we can-
added Ahsoka.
they did.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Did you see the Ahsoka that they hired? They must have more
Wonderful.
than one. They've got to have more
Well,
than
the
one.
one I saw on social media is wonderful.
We probably saw the same photo, and I agree. It's absolutely spot on. Well done.
I've seen a video of her interacting with it, like maybe a 4-year-old done up.
Oh,
like
that's so
Ahsoka,
cool.
And it is so just
Yeah.
my feelings.
Back on Lothal, Sabine returns to the communications tower she calls home. She greets her pet cat before moving over to a workbench where she removes a large rucksack from underneath it. Now, placing the bag on a table, she removes the pieces of her Beskar armor and lays them out in the position that they would be worn on her body. I'm just going to point out, descriptive audio says Beskar armor, not Mandalorian armor,
No.
Beskar armor. So if there was ever any doubt, we might be able to say, nope, that's what it is. Facebook user, they have 2 so far, and they are both awesome. 2 Ahsokas at Galaxy's Edge. Okay, good to know. Returning to the workbench, Sabine crouches down and she retrieves her helmet. She pauses for a moment to look at it before she gets back up. And in the next scene, now dressed in her Beskar armor, Sabine kneels in front of a low table bearing her helmet and a knife. She picks up the knife and she turns it over ceremonially in her hands before gathering her hair in one hand and cutting it off with the knife in the other. Then, placing the knife back on the table, she picks up her helmet and rises. All right, I had to look around for this, but thanks to Redditor 526 Gina, here we've got a good comparison shot of Sabine's armored looks across all 4 seasons of Rebels, including the epilogue look. Which, by the way, this is the epilogue armor that we're looking
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure it is.
Yeah.
You
caught the Kanan Jarrus reference with the haircut?
Yeah, cutting off the ponytail.
Oh, man.
Yeah, very much so. I just thought it was cool at this point to go through. I mean, I don't know if you want to look at those again, if you want to take a better look at them, but to see them lined up together, her evolution of the look of that character over the course of the series. She even gets more armor added to her as the series progresses.
It's true. And
I thought was kind of cool.
In this iteration, she's eschewed the Spectre designation, the 5.
Oh, yeah, it's gone. But I mean, that changed up quite a bit, because there was just at one point it was just a checkerboard, and then there was some other stuff on there. So I don't know. That's cool. But yeah, definitely the epilogue version of the armor. Which, I mean, if we weren't convinced by now, I kind of go back to, yeah, I do think that the epilogue was recreated.
I do.
For the show, yeah.
I didn't, and now I do.
I do as well. I think this was sort of the lock for me. Where are we now? Oh, yeah. Okay. Back on Corellia. Now, Ahsoka and Sabine stand on a platform watching as New Republic security forces round up several of the shipyard's workers, including Min Weaver. As we've seen before, we've got the police style gunship, which does say police on it.
Mm-hmm.
Hera questions how any of them could still be loyal to the Empire. Ahsoka tells her it's not loyalty, it's greed that drives them.
Sure it's not the cookies? Those Empire biscuits,
the biscuits, the travel biscuits.
We still haven't done that episode.
No, we haven't. No, we've not. Hera, turning toward the Phantom, Hera asks Chopper for an update on their tracking device. He tells her nothing yet, and Hera instructs him to keep working on it. She then tells Ahsoka that when they have something more definitive, she'll let her know. Ahsoka nods before turning and boards her T6 Jedi shuttle. Stepping on board the ship, she pauses as the ship's comm chimes, hitting a control on the bulkhead next to the cockpit. A life-size hollow image of Sabine dressed in her Beskar armor and wearing her lightsaber on her belt flickers into being. Ahsoka faces the hologram and Sabine tells her, "I'm ready." And Ahsoka cracks a ever so slight smile. Outside, Hera confers with a pair of New Republic security officers, then pauses as the T6 shuttle lifts off. Its giant wing rotates into flight position as the shuttle gains speed and departs for Lothal. At the Remembrance Plaza on Lothal, Sabine enters the memorial and she walks up to the mural of the Spectre group and pauses to reflect on her old shipmates, especially Ezra Bridger as she gently touches his face. From outside, the whine of a starship's engines grow loud before fading to nothing. Turning, Sabine sees Ahsoka standing on the platform, the hood of her cloak drawn up over her head. Sabine smiles as she approaches her former master. Now, standing face to face, Ahsoka breaks the silence, telling Sabine, "Nice haircut." Sabine smiles as she says, "It's more me." Then Huyang exits the ship to tell them that he's just received word from Hera that the transport hauler was traced to the Denab system and is in orbit over the planet Cetos. Turning to Sabine, Ahsoka says they should get moving and boards the T6, but Sabine hesitates for a moment. Then, finding her resolve, she forges ahead and the T6 shuttle pulls away from the plaza. As the ship breaks orbit, Huyang announces that the calculations are complete. Ahsoka adjusts a few controls before looking towards Sabine and tells her, "Take us out, Padawan." Sabine smiles at Ahsoka and pulls the levers to engage the hyperdrive, and the ship jumps for the Denab system. It's almost a throwaway line. And I know we've talked about this before, but the fact that Huyang says where does he say here? He says, the calculations are complete.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that they've actually made a point to like, oh, we're not just going to like throw the levers forward and light skipping and all that. Like we can just go as fast as we want, whenever we want.
Right.
It takes us a little bit back to traveling through
That's
hyperspace
too-
requires,
yeah.
precise calculations.
Yeah.
I do like that aspect. Above the planet Cetos, a massive hyperspace ring is being assembled in orbit. The transport hauler from Corellia with the SSD hyperdrive core arrives, and the hauler lowers it into an empty engine nacelle. Now, I have to admit, when we saw this in the marketing material, I actually thought this was a close-up of a Jedi hyperspace ring.
Yeah.
Right.
Never in a million years did I imagine
That they just
that this
made it bigger.
They're cooking
Yeah.
a giant one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is huge. Huge. This is the Eye of Sion. At the top of the ring sits the ship's golden bridge. It's the same color as that moth-looking shuttle that Morgan kind of landed in. And I wonder if it's like a the Phantom is to the Ghost as the moth ship might be to this.
Maybe.
Yeah. Morgan Elsbeth stands on the bridge of the Eye of Sion, looking out over the planet below. She turns as the hollow image of Balin, Shin, and Marok materializes. Marok is doing that villain stance again. Is there an injury there, or is he just flexing? I'm a villain.
He's awkward posing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she tells the three false Jedi that installation of the final hyperdrive has begun, and the ship will soon be complete, and they will deliver Grand Admiral Thrawn from his exile in the far galaxy depicted at the henge. Balin says the sooner the better. Sensing something is wrong, Morgan asserts that the appearance of Ahsoka Tano troubles him, and Balin admits, yeah, it does. The remark catches his Padawan by surprise as she looks at her master wide-eyed. Shin tells Balin that they made a clean escape and Ahsoka couldn't have tracked them here. Knowing there is something more to Balin's troubles, Morgan asks the former Jedi what it is he sees. Closing his eyes, Balin reaches out. He says that Ahsoka's presence in the Force is elusive. Then opening his eyes, he adds that her determination is vivid, and she is coming. Morgan tells him that nothing can be allowed to prevent their journey. Balin blinks, and he shakes his head wistfully as he says it would be a shame to kill her, with there being so few Jedi left.
Yeah.
Morgan questions him. Sentimental? But Balin just calls it a truth. Then the hologram winks out, leaving Morgan alone on the bridge, save for the pair of droids. And with a determined scowl, Morgan turns back towards the viewport, folding her arms behind her back, and we cut to black. But wait, there's more. There's more, and I mean, you've all seen it by now, and everybody on the internet is talking about it, so we might as well too. Episode 1, it was also in episode 1, but
it was. I thought I'd leave it
here.
It is more prominent in your episode.
Episode 2, we get additional voices. We do have an appearance here from Sam Witwer. The prevailing theory is he is the grunty of Marok. If you watched our video on who is the Mystery Inquisitor, if you watched our Road to Ahsoka series, you know that we have already sort of theorized that, yes,
he's on the block.
Starkiller is an option for this character.
Earlier today, I saw an interview with him that was filmed like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he's being asked a question, and he's like, I can't technically answer that. I love these questions, but I can't answer it because I'm on strike. He's
That's
like,
right.
Maybe I can't answer it. No, wait, I was in Ahsoka. I can't answer that question.
That's right.
I swear to God, he does that. He goes,
no, I was in that show.
No, I was in that show, so I can't answer that. I was like forgot that he was in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Is that him acting right there, or is it really just I was the voice of a computer, or I hummed for a blender?
So we have the comment that says it could also be the eighth brother, but I hope it's Starkiller. We also theorized the
Django
brother.
jumper.
I theorized the eighth brother based on the shape of the helmet, that the ridged helmet was sort of in line with what we'd seen by the eighth brother. So that's still
let's combine the shape of the helmet with the idea that perhaps I killed a Jedi and took it.
There you go.
Right.
I do like that idea.
So did you guys see the video I sent you of Sam?
I did.
Talking?
I watched it. I watched the whole thing, and I was very, very impressed.
He had his own idea of like how you could reinterpret the character, and I was just like, he's one of us. He's just the coolest, man.
To paraphrase what he said, if I may, he basically had said that, you know, the idea of making Starkiller an Inquisitor, remembering that Starkiller, the crux of Starkiller is that he's Vader's secret apprentice. And how would Vader secretly train an apprentice in the current Star Wars canon? Well, it's a very dodgy subject, because if you make him an Inquisitor, if he doesn't perform, they'll kill him.
Right.
But you can't be too good to raise suspicion that Vader's training a secret apprentice.
Right.
But it's a good way to hide somebody under the Emperor's
Right.
nose.
And that was like he talked himself through that line of thought and came up with like it is a good way. So
I like it.
I mean, we all know that game was just showcasing some new
The developers there's
ability to do cool stuff, right?
Right, and that was sort of the mantra behind the developers.
So, I mean, of course, he's super overpowered, and we could never have because people are already going, you can't be Starkiller because he would just wipe the floor with Ahsoka.
No,
sure, that game version of him would be, but if we had a nerfed, more regular style, badass Jedi version of him,
he doesn't have to be Starkiller. He can just be Galen Merrick.
Apprentices of
yes,
Darth Vader
absolutely.
Going, like,
yes,
it's beautiful.
It works for me.
Yeah.
It works for me.
Better than the idea that people are going, it's either Kanan or maybe it's Cal Kestis. I've seen a lot of those.
There is that. I've also heard, that this is Ezra Bridger come back,
fallen from grace or whatever,
and that would make it sort of, I've said it before, on par with the taking the mask off. You are Darth Revan. Oh my God! If it is Ezra, you better get to the reveal very quickly so we can spend the rest of the series redeeming him, because that's going to be what the series will be about, ostensibly. We've had oh my gosh, we've talked Barriss Offee.
I don't think it is Ezra though.
No.
Because if they're still actively trying to go get Thrawn,
exactly.
How the hell would he have gotten?
I know.
Like, well, he can swim with the Purgles, but I don't think we'll go that direction.
You think he just he Mick Dundee to Purgle to bring him back alone?
The first time he interacts with the Purgles, it's like season 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's not the big jump, and his eyes go hyperspace when he interacts with them.
Yeah.
Like he connects. He's a different kind of cat when it comes to connecting with sentient creatures.
I mean, because it is a mystery, and only because it is a mystery, nobody's off the table.
No,
there is like more likely and less likely. Ezra, way on the less likely.
Yes.
Man, I really do, in light of the stuff that we've seen, like the Twitch stream with Sam talking about, Dave Filoni wanting to make Starkiller and Inquisitor in Rebels. Then this latest video with Sam sort of talking his way through this idea of how could you
couple that with the almost slip up of going, I wasn't in this. Oh, wait a minute, I was.
I was in that.
Him having a realization in a Twitch stream.
Do I want it to be Galen Merrick? Sure. Again, I think it's cool. Already, going back to what we'd said before, and I remember, Hank, you had said, like, if this guy is nothing more than a speed bump as Ahsoka just walks through him, well, he's already proven to be more than that.
Yes.
He's already proven to be more than that.
Yes.
But as we saw in this episode, he was exerting himself quite
he was
a bit.
Pressed.
Like he was not a peep from Ahsoka, like not even like heavy breathing from her. So we shall see. But that being said, it's Monday night here on the show. That means tomorrow night we're getting another episode of Ahsoka, and we will be back next Sunday to cover that one as well. Guys, what do we think of Toil and Trouble now that we've gotten through it?
Loved it.
11.5 out of 10.
11.5. So you've gone from an 11 out of 10 to an 11.5 out of 10. Your scores keep getting better every show, man.
Yeah, I mean, that I was super impressed with a lot of that stuff going on in that episode. 100%.
I'm not sure what the E is for, but I'll take it.
Probably for episode 3 coming up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for episode 3 for sure. Now that we've gotten through it, again, like I said last night, when I sat down and I watched them together the first night, last Tuesday, and I was like, I think the first thing I said to you guys was like, oh, this feels like it's going to be a slow burn. Once again, though, having watched the episodes microscopically the way that we do, I get so much more out of it, and I am so much more. Yeah, I'm way on board with this one. Like I was a real champion for Andor because I wanted to be, and it met my expectation.
It's slow burn, but it built to a fire.
This I didn't have as much hope for, and it has exceeded. It has exceeded. So for me, Toil and Trouble, 10 out of 10 for me. For sure, it's a 10 out of 10. I'm over
the moon with how good it's been. Like I said at the beginning, I just hope they can maintain this, because now I had those lofty expectations,
Yeah,
and they've
yeah.
been met and then some. So now my the final 6 episodes have a lot
right.
to sort of big boots to fill now. for
We've
me.
got a lot of ground to get through. We know we are getting Thrawn. We've seen him in the marketing materials. Are we going to see Ezra again? I don't know. Do you want to see Ezra again?
So
I hope
I don't know
so.
if this is legit. I was going to send it to you guys later. Maybe it's not worth talking about, but maybe it is. There's a season 3 promo out there, and I don't know if it's fan made or not, but it seems to show Ezra dressed totally different, totally like almost in a world between worlds, like, but from behind. So it's like I don't know.
So Disinferno, that's a great point. Disinferno says Merrick has rusty armor. There's no Imperial markings on his armor.
Oh, I
That is a
disagree.
great point.
He actually does have the Imperial.
Does
symbol
he?
on his
I'm gonna
shoulder.
have to go
Yeah,
back and look for that,
totally
because
does, yeah.
now that
Is it just like
Oh,
embossed on
interesting.
his shoulder pauldron, or
I don't know, like
if it's a paint job or not.
painted on? I don't know.
'cause some of that armor's stamped, right?
Is this a reason for him to be Vader's apprentice? Wow. I mean, canonically, we talked about this before. All the Inquisitors are trained by Vader.
Yeah.
They're his little, I don't know, pardon the pun.
And
wolf pack.
the proto Inquisitors were trained by Palpatine, and the whole package was just handed to Vader.
Right. Here you go. Look
Right.
after these people,
Yeah.
and give them jobs. Wow. I'm gonna have to go look for that now. That the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
That's got me thinking now.
Yeah, I'm sure that I saw it. Maybe it was
That's
in
a great
the-
comment. Great comment, because now I think we're all second guessing. What?
We're
Wait,
doing
what?
some work
What?
now. Yeah.
Oh, so excited to come back to this. Inquisitors, like I've said before, they've been my favorite villains since the West End game. Star Wars.
What a great way to make like a lightsaber duel a viable threat, but
Yeah.
also have it be like bad guy light, so that you can just kick their arses.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. Does anybody care that about the lightsaber thing anymore? Do we care about the lightsabers aren't lethal anymore? Yes, they are.
Yeah,
They are.
They just gotta. It's these unskilled people that don't know where to stab guys.
Sure. And I've always said that, if it serves the story always comes first for me.
I will say one thing: if I was
Yeah,
a
sure.
lightsaber wielder and I poked you with it and
Yeah.
then pulled it straight out, there's a
Yeah.
chance that you would live. But if I just went laterally with it,
Well-
it's over.
That's
I
right.
don't know why.
Unless,
just
of
don't
course, you can,
cut a hole in them like a door.
TJC stopping by to say, hey, TJ, we're good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. Transect any species and see how they come out of it.
Except for possibly
That's right.
a Zabrak.
Just that one,
Yeah.
and only one. Well, hey, you can take somebody's organs, put them in a bag, and shove
Right.
them in a droid body. So
Sure.
I mean,
you could yeah, right.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for us here.
Are we playing our game
on
or no?
Oh, wait a
One
minute.
more little
Oh, wait a
segment,
minute.
though.
You know what?
We got time?
We do
got
have time. And guess what? So how do we want to set this up? I know you set it up last night.
Hank, take it away.
It's okay. I'm just gonna put this up here.
Put them back there because they're in there.
The next slide, I believe, right?
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so-
let me.
So in a little game that I've been calling in my head, and I don't have a better name for it now, but attention, Bruce Willis. Squinting is not an emotion.
Squinting is not an emotion.
I give to you once again, the many emotions of Ahsoka Tano.
That's,
One.
Two.
2, 3,
Three.
4, 5,
Five.
6,
Six.
7,
Ah,
8, 9. That's a good one.
An
honorable
honorable
mention.
mention from Hera. I think we should call this one resting Togruta face.
There's resting to Gruta face.
Uh,
So that indeed is I think that might be a running gag. So let's see
That's
if they can
hilarious.
keep up.
That's great. I look forward to counting the number of arm folds in every episode as we go forward, because that has just become like the sweet spot for me.
And so the episode, there was 12 in the first one, there was 9 in this one, and it seems like there's one roughly every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll say in this episode, when they were dismantling the droid head,
Yeah.
She kept that for like a 6-minute scene.
Oh, yeah. If somebody stood over my hospital bed like that, I'd be like, is there something wrong? Like, are you okay?
You're awfully
you
closed
could blow
off,
up in a
Ahsoka.
minute.
I love it.
Disinferno, Starkiller was stabbed by Vader and survived. Many people still want this to be canon.
No, it's true. I mean,
That
and
is true.
there's, I mean, we get crazy.
You can play that game, light side, dark side. So,
And there's alternate endings to those games where like
That's
different
right.
realities play out. Because there's one where he slays Vader and becomes like,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
Emperor's
he
apprentice.
becomes the thing. Yeah, I'm excited for this. Yes, a part of me does want it to be Sam, because I think Sam is great. Like we've
Oh,
said,
I'd
it,
love to see him.
one of us, right? He really is one of us. That video.
And they used his face for that character, and
That's
it would
right.
It's just seamless. Like,
Yeah.
You wouldn't, yeah, and I mean, it would be. I think he's appropriately aged to.
I would say so.
Sure,
yeah,
he's a late 30, 40, early 40 something, is he not?
I would think
Being
40
that
something.
range.
He is.
He was
I think
in
he's a 40-something.
Smallville, right as Doomsday.
Oh yeah,
In season 8, I believe.
I just
When.
one of my favorite stories about him. And I know we're going on. Is just that he's sitting in a writing session in a scene, and
Yep.
he's sitting there listening to dialogue between, I think it was like Ahsoka and Anakin, and
Yeah.
he says to Dave Filoni in the middle of the recording session, "Anakin wouldn't say that," and they have this discussion where, and the conclusion is, no, he's right. Wait a minute, all the writers are going,
yeah.
no, Anakin, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Can you sound like Darth Maul?
Cool. All right. Well, listen. I think we've run its the show has run its course for tonight.
Yeah, man.
We kind of went a little bit long tonight. We're an hour and we're an hour 45 minutes in.
We're exactly what we were last night.
Oh, that's very interesting. And I tend to be pretty wordy, so good for me. Guys, if you don't want to hang out with us tomorrow night, that's fine. We'll see you next Sunday as we do episode 3 or part 3, whatever the title is. We don't know the title yet, do we?
Not yet.
Hasn't
No.
leaked yet. Okay.
No, it hasn't leaked.
If you want to come back tomorrow night for our regular Tuesday night, it's the next installment of Random Fandom, where we'll have a bunch more pop culture and entertainment headlines pulled from the news of the last week that we'll talk about like we normally do on Tuesday nights. It's usually a lot of fun. We like to play. We do some games on that one as well. We do some
Trivia,
pop
some
culture trivia, and we do. I got a word game that we play. It's kind of fun, so you can always come back and hang out for that. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, guys. Any more before we sign off?
Can't wait for the next one.
I'm excited.
Me
Not
too.
long to go.
No, just a few hours. Oh, by the way, we had one response so far. Doug, a friend of the show, Doug, said, yes, I would be interested in a Ahsoka finale live stream party. So that's
That'd be
one.
awesome.
If you guys think you'd be interested in hanging out with us to live stream the finale in 6 weeks time, let us know if there's enough
Pretty sure
response.
we're going to be doing it anyway. So if you guys
Yeah.
want to join in,
just want to hang
totally
out.
join in.
Absolutely.
But like,
All right.
we'll have to do something with like a countdown clock where we're all like, okay, everybody ready? Press the button.
Yeah, really.
Now.
No, you can do a watch party on.
Disney Plus will allow for watch parties. Oh,
I'm not
that's
sure.
cool.
I know Netflix
That's
does.
cool. I know, and Prime Video does as well.
And there's family sharing.
I will find out.
We'll look into it. Yep.
I will find out. I will know by tomorrow when we sit down to talk pop culture tomorrow night.
Nice.
All right, guys. I think that's it for all of us here at the show. For Fandom Power, my name is Wes,
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
and we'll see everybody next time. And bye for now.
Pew, pew.